Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, like, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucimus Prime here. So, it is time for the next episode series of Old is Better Than New. And in today's video, I thought I'd this time cover an example of an animated franchise, which in my opinion was better in the old than the new. And this is not made by franchises like Pixar or DreamWorks or anything like that, but actually made by another animated franchise company, which I think is pretty underrated and I think deserves more attention. This was made, of course, by the studio Blue Sky. And this franchise, where in my opinion the old is better than the new, is none other than Ice Age. So, you guys are going to ask me, of course, what are my thoughts on the franchise then. So, in around late 2021, I got around to binge watching the films of the franchise. And when it comes, of course, to the first three films in particular, which is where, in my opinion, the franchise is at its peak, I definitely really love the first movie. I think it's a phenomenal start to a franchise. It's how you do, like, a brand new animated franchise with great characters in it absolutely, and a great voice cast as well. Although, sadly, of course, my opinion on the voice of Sid being John Leguizamo has aged horrendously because he's now an actor I absolutely despise, so screw him all the way. But I think the first film, for what it is worth, is a great start to a franchise with world building, introducing fan favourite characters, and having a very good story to kick things off. Then, of course, after this film from 2002, we got a sequel 4 years later in 2006, which is Ice Age The Meltdown, or Ice Age 2 Meltdown, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's, in my opinion, a very good sequel. I mean, sure, it might not be as good as the first one, in my opinion, but I still think it's a really good sequel, to be completely honest. And when it comes to my favourite in the franchise, it is most definitely, of course, the franchise's third installment, which is Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs from 2009. I definitely really love this film. It's one of my favourite animated films of all time, and it's one of my favourite films by Blue Sky of all time. I mean, my personal favourite, of course, being Robots, but I think this is probably in my top favourites by, of course, Blue Sky. Absolutely, I really love Dawn of the Dinosaurs. My opinion, the best of the franchise, and I've already covered this in my series, of course, of films that didn't need sequels, but to me, this is the end of the Ice Age franchise because it gave a happy end into the characters and it closed all the doors, in my opinion, really well. To me, it's the end. But sadly, however, we get to why I'd say the franchise is better in old than the new, because unfortunately, despite the great ending the film got, we sadly got sequels, two of which were actual films made by Blue Sky, and the other was, of course, a spin-off sequel, but was not made by Blue Sky instead. So, the first of these sequels, of course, was Ice Age Continental Drift, released in 2012. Now, when I see the great ending of Dawn of Dinosaurs, and then we get this, the only question I have is, why? Like, why would you give us a great ending, but then make this film? Because when it comes to Continental Drift, I'm personally not a fan of that film at all. Compared to the trilogy, it's not good in my opinion. What's done about it is, it just takes these characters, and in my opinion, it puts them in a pretty dumb story. Like, for example, I do not buy the idea of pirates, of all things, being in an ice age. Like, are you kidding me? That's just so stupid in my opinion. And doesn't even help that, in my opinion, Captain Gull was not a good villain either. I mean, I love Peter Dinklage as an actor. I think he's a great actor. But Captain Gull, in my opinion, was not a good villain. I was not a fan of him. And I just think it's so dumb, unreally. And the story, in my opinion, was not good either. And they also as well completely ruined Manny's daughter, Peaches. Because Peaches, in my opinion, was absolutely insufferable since her first appearance in the third film. Because this film was the start of it. In this first film where she appears, and of course, grown up, she's so unlikable. Like, I don't know what happened at all. Like, because in the third film when she's born, she's likable and actually good to watch. Whereas in this one where she's now a teenager, she's insufferable. I can't stand watching her. Like, she was just so unlikable in this film, I couldn't stand her. So this film is guilty of Nolan being a cash grab sequel was not needed in the first place, and introducing things that make no sense in an Ice Age franchise in prehistoric times, but also masculine characters too. Like, that's not how you do it, because in these three films that I've just gushed about, the characters are great, they're likeable, and well written. But this film was completely the start of a downfall, unfortunately. So that was just so stupid. And all I can say is, screw Continental Drift all the way. It was literally just made to cash in on the franchise and milk it. And also to give Diego a love interest, of course, which, of course, was voiced by Jennifer Lopez, being, of course, being Shira. Like, what was the point of this film, seriously? But sadly, there wasn't the end of the franchise, because then we got another film, somehow, 4 years later. And just when I thought it was already gone bad with this film, it got even worse with this one. And this is also the last one that Blue Sky made for the franchise too. And that is the absolute disgrace. Ice Age Collision Course! Like, screw this sequel all the way. Compared to the trilogy, this film is terrible. And it makes Continental Drift look like a masterpiece in comparison, even though that film's not good either, in my opinion. But Collision Course, in my opinion, sucks. Like, because what is so dumb about this film is, just like, of course, how the fourth one of Pirates would make no sense in an Ice Age franchise, this film introduces something else which also makes no sense for an Ice Age franchise, but in my opinion does it much worse. Because this film introduces something which is completely out of place in a prehistoric times franchise, which is spaceships! So, when that first appeared in the film, I just face-palmed, because I think that was just proof to me that the franchise has run its course. They've literally run out of ideas, and the film, in my opinion, was just an absolute joke to the franchise. Like, you introduce tons of things that make no sense, and you continue mastering characters, because I've already talked about how Peaches was so insufferable after, of course, the first appearance. But also, as well, they also ruined Scrat as well. Like, because what he did to him since the third film, in my opinion, made no sense, especially in this film as well. Like, what an absolute joke. So all I can say is, screw his fifth film all the way, and it's just heartbreaking how this had to be Blue Sky's last Ice Age film. It's really heartbreaking. But in my canon, guys, their last film they made was Dawn of the Dinosaurs. That's what I'll say. But unfortunately, despite this being the last film by Blue Sky, because they unfortunately, of course, shut down following, of course, making Spies in Disguise, and they, of course, released Nimona on Netflix, of course, last year, which was their last film they did before we actually shut down the transfer rights to Netflix. We unfortunately got a spin-off sequel released in 2022, but because it was not, of course, made by of course, Blue Sky, it was instead produced by Bardell Entertainment. They did animation for it, but just when I thought it was already trash with a fifth film, this film made it even worse. Because this, to me, is the worst of the worst, and it's none other than, of course, 2022's The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. This film, in my opinion, is complete and utter trash. Like, the only thing I like about the film is that Simon Pegg returns to reprise his role as Buck in this. If he wasn't in the film, I'd have given the film 0 out of 10, but he, of course, reprises his role as Buck, and he was, in my opinion, the only redeeming quality of this film. Because this film was absolute trash, the worst of the franchise, in my opinion, and so far it's the worst one that I've seen for 2022 as well. Like, what is so dumb is, despite this film being a spin-off supposedly about Buck, it's not even about him. It's about the franchise's main characters, because guess what? They actually appear in the film, guys, but they're recast. So, like, why would you bring back Simon Pegg but recast the other characters we all know and love? What a joke. Doesn't even help that the new voices sucked, in my opinion, too. Didn't even sound like the original actors, in my opinion. And the story, in my opinion, was an absolute joke. Because compared to this trilogy, which I think has a really captivating, brilliant story in 3 films, this film, in my opinion, was trash. And I didn't even care about the story at all. Like, for most of the film, I just had it on in the background and instead played on my phone or something instead, because it was just so terrible, in my opinion. Like, insufferable. And not to mention, and as well, the animation, in my opinion, was also terrible. Because compared to the stunning animation that this trilogy has, even the first one for 2002 standards, this one's animation, in my opinion, was hot garbage. Like, 20 years after the first film, and worse animation than it? What's happened? Like, it literally looks like a really bad PS2 game in a film. Or what, I've played PS2 games with way better graphics than this. But still, the animation was utter trash and, like, unwatchable. Like, what absolute jolt to the franchise, a big disgrace. So, all I can say is, screw what came after the third film all the way. Because the trilogy, in my opinion, was great as it was. With a great story, great characters who are likeable and well written, and a very good story which is enjoyable. But since then, the franchise has really gone downhill, and it's only got worse and worse. And knowing Disney will probably make another film of this, because they, of course, own Fox now. So, I have no doubt in my mind they're going to make more of these. I just know they probably will at some point. But I will not be watching them. But whilst been up as a nail in the coffin when it comes to me watching any more Ice Age related stuff, I'm not watching anymore. No chance. I'll happily stick to the 3 films that I love in the trilogy. And one day I will definitely post reviews for them. Absolutely. Sadly, it means I'll probably post negative reviews for the next ones. Oh dear. But at least I'll have to watch them ever again after that, though, thankfully. So as far as I'm concerned, guys, Ice Age is probably a massive example I can say of an animated franchise which is much better in old than the new. My opinion, a franchise has been milked far too much and needs to go die now for its own sake, because it's not improving. It's only going to get worse and worse. So screw it all away now, because I don't know why we're continuing it. It's just so stupid in my opinion. To me, it's only a timeless trilogy, nothing more. So guys, this is me coming next episode of Oldest Ever New. I was saying why, in my opinion, Ice Age is much better in old than the new. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let in the comments what you guys think of Ice Age. Do you think it's better than old than the new? Leave it in the comments below. Also, be sure to join Team Prime, press and subscribe to this coming in the future. And I'll see you all later.